It would not have been possible to produce all of the sessions and content for Punchback Print and bring you all of this content for free without the help of our amazing sponsors. So without further ado, here is a quick word from one of them.
A recent study conducted by Small Biz Trends revealed that 85% of consumers were more likely to choose a company's products and services if they advertise using mediums such as large printed signs, graphics, flyers, brochures, and business cards, and it would increase their brand allegiance and engagement for the long term.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the final sessions of How to Sell Solutions and Not Print. Today on the call, we're joined with Siobhan, CEO of Huddersfield Town Football Club Foundation, Lance from 8 Days a Week, Mike from Latchams, Neil from V-Press, and myself, Lucy, from Nutshell Creative. For those of you who joined the previous 2 sessions, you'll have seen how we took a live brief from Siobhan to support the marketing of the foundation. For those of you who didn't and would like to watch, you can access the recorded talks on the links below the screen. To summarise, Siobhan gave us 2 key objectives to deliver against. To build a database of donors to engage with in the future. Currently, Siobhan only has access via the club database and wants to start to build and control her own. She also wants to raise awareness about what the charity does, what it stands for, and where the donor money goes. And again, Siobhan generally relies on the club for the main source of communication and would like to bring this into more control by the foundation team. After the initial session, we then presented back to Siobhan following her brief and talked through how we could address these objectives by delivering an integrated marketing campaign aimed at season ticket holders and high net worth individuals in the Kirklees area. And also building her a marketing portal that could be used to procure a raft of comms material internally without the need of relying on external resources, protecting her brand, giving her speed to market, and most importantly, transparency on spend. We're going to divide this up now into 2 sessions and talk through what we've achieved in the last week. The first part, Mike and Lance are going to talk through the campaign, and the second part, Neil is going to talk through the marketing portal. Siobhan, feel free at any time to interject. So I'm now going to hand over to Mike to talk through the integrated campaign.
Hi, Siobhan. We were just looking at really to engage with Huddersfield Football Club supporters. Of course, they aren't you're the foundation, you're not the football club. So one of the things we need to do is to sign them up to support the foundation. And that's important so that we can build a permissioned GDPR compliant database that you can use as the foundation separately, if you like, to the football club. And through that, then raise awareness. We also wanted to say that print, of course, is very important, but it also sits alongside other media, particularly email and web, in terms of the way the campaign works. So we want to link all of this together, and to do that, we are proposing to implement a campaign management tool called X-Empire Circle. So I'm just going to dive into that and show you again what we're proposing. So just to recap on how the campaign will work, basically it's split into 2 parts. I'm going to leave Lance to talk about the door drops. But we've got the outbound addressed DM campaign. And so far we've just mocked up some artwork for that in the form of a postcard that's going to go out. And the postcard itself, if we go on to that, can you see the postcard?
Yes.
Okay, so this is very, very draft at the moment. And I know that Lucy's working on this with Nutshell as well with you. But effectively, it's going to be a postcard that's going to go out. It's going to have a link through to a web page that we'll come back to in a minute, or a personalised landing page that you can either get to through the address, or indeed we've got a QR code here that will work across both Apple and Android devices as well. and if we just go back to where that's going to work inside the campaign, is that we're proposing that mailing will go out, and then it'll come back through into the web page. So you come into a personalized web page, and there we can then re-permission the data, i.e., because we're linking the data through the QR code that's on the piece, when it comes back to the personalized page, that can have the person's detail on it, but it also can have a pre-completed form in which they can then re-permission that data. Because that's really important, because the next stage after that is we're going to obviously say thank you for people taking part. They're invited to take part in a prize draw in this case. So we'll have an email going back saying thank you for registering. And then we can also email or send the data direct back to the foundation for you to capture in your own database going forward. So the mailing going out will effectively be going out with the Huddersfield Football Club data and then being recommissioned back from the foundation. We're also, with Lance's help, we'll come back to that in a minute, doing a door drop, which is going to be targeted to specific postcode areas, and I'll leave that for Lance to talk about further. And within the campaign, we can also manage things like follow-up emails that can be triggered. In this case, we've just say 1 week after the mailing's gone out, if we've got both email and address data as well. And then finally, of course, once that's been run, we'll have a prize draw, and we'll need to manage the prize draw process in terms of informing the winners, but also informing those people who weren't winners with an email to inform them of the results, and most importantly, to keep them engaged with the campaign. So all the time pushing them back into the campaign, into the website. And what we can do is we can actually track, once this goes live, you can actually track the responses that are being made onto the personalized landing page. We can track at each of these stages, or touch points as we call it, we can actually track what's actually happening within the campaign. And we'll show you that when the campaign goes live. But for the minute, have you got any questions regarding that?
No, I really like the idea that it's that hook of using the club's data, but then really helping that to build our database. It feels like a good quick win.
Yeah.
We own those permissions, so it's just a real simple way of executing that for us.
I mean, importantly, we'll just have to talk about the kind of legals of it, because effectively the mailing will be sent out with the Huddersfield Football Club's data. So that data could be sent to us as a data processor to manage on behalf of the football club, sending the mailing out in your name. And then obviously as it comes back, we would be processing the data for you. And therefore in that process, we've effectively being a data processor for both the club and for yourselves. And then once the supporters have given permission for the data to be used for the foundation, by the way, the permission will be picked up within this web form, then that data can then be used for future campaigns by the foundation without having to refer back to the club each time.
And on that,
Sorry, Siobhan.
on the personalised page, would that draw through some of their own data, or would they need, like, just like when I go online, sometimes it's already pulled through my email address and my name, and then I just have to tick the box to confirm, or
Yes.
do they input? So again, it's that time saving for them, isn't it? That it's already kind of pre-populated, and now it's just getting them to click a box to make a decision rather than type extra information in.
That's the way I see it, is that we would have pre-populated the form, and then we need to obviously ask for positive permission. So we'll have a tick box in there, just asking people if they're happy for that data to be used by the foundation. We need to think through the questions and make sure they're GDPR compliant, so that you've obviously got data that you can definitely use for future activity.
So Siobhan, the next steps for this would be that you and I work on some content on what we want each stage of the journey to say. So obviously provided some outline visuals for the initial DM with the hook of winning a signed shirt in return for somebody imparting with their data. But then we can look at where Mike had the social sharing opportunities as well. So we can incorporate content where when a supporter has signed up, they encourage, you know, other supporters or friends of the community to do so as well. So yeah, next stop is content and imagery.
So if it's obviously a door drop or somebody who's being referred by a friend, which we can have within the campaign, then when they come in, it won't be a personalised page. It'll just be a blank page, but it'll effectively be the same. We can still pick up all the details through the same mechanism. So for the door drop, we'll come to Lance now, I guess, to talk on that. Then that's exactly how that would work.
As a Raw Mail door drop affiliate, we have the availability to use the software and the targeting tools available, which are absolutely fantastic for door drop. Obviously, the difference between door drop and DM is that door drop's obviously not personalised, and it's more of a wider, broader brush approach, but we can target it down quite well to specific postcodes. So this report here, which I'm just going to run through, so I'll do it slowly because there's a fair bit to take in, but I can actually send you this after as well because there's quite a lot of information you'll probably need to digest. So what we've done, we agreed that we wanted to target higher net worth individuals. So we're able to profile effectively ABC ones, as we call them, in terms of where there's more wealth potential within the postcode. So if you look just down this list here, the target definition, we're going to focus on the A, B and C, although the F, Gs and Os are here as well on this list, but it gives you an idea of just a high level view of the sort of people these are from a profile viewpoint. We've used a 10-mile radius from your postcode. And then if I scroll down here, you'll see on a map, obviously there's HD1 and where these areas are. Now, the next stage is really recommendations. So I'll show you that in a second. What I'm going to recommend is that we avoid, for obvious reasons, probably the north or the northeast of Huddersfield area, because you're encroaching into Leeds territory, I guess. So there's probably going to be a lot of Leeds fans knocking around as well. So yeah, we're trying to make sure we maximise the door drops penetration and hit the people that are, you know, hopefully Huddersfield fans, but at least have an affinity with Huddersfield and the Kirklees area, which is, you know, ultimately what we want to target. And as we said in the last session, we are going to capture a lot of non-football fans, but hopefully they'll be positive about the cause. So if I scroll down here, so this is there's quite a few pages of this. I'm just going to focus on the top part here. So just to walk you through what this is. So down the left side, you've got the postcode sectors, and then it gives you the locality. So I'm sure you or people local in the football club will know these areas. And then further over here, it gives you the total count in that postcode sector. So as you see, this first one's got 188, and it gives you penetration 69.1 against the target criteria. So it's over indexing here. Look, you've got 299 on the index. So anything above 100 is good. So obviously you want to hit the maximum index to make sure the propensity of hitting those ABC ones is accurate. So what I've done here, I've highlighted these four in particular. Now, the main criteria of Raw Mail door drop is a minimum spend of £500. Now that will get you over 8,000 door drops effectively. So these four here add up to just over 9,000. Now I've selected these just on my knowledge in terms of what I know, but you might say, do you know what, Lance, I actually don't want to send door drops to that specific postcode. These other ones that I think will work better based on your knowledge of your data. So this is where it works well with what Mike's talked about in terms of the campaign planning. You'll need to do a bit of analysis on your side and say, okay, we know our data, we know who they are, we know the postcodes we want to target. So I've just picked out the four top HD ones, effectively. So Huddersfield, there, you got that one there. Next one down, HD9. And then I've avoided the Halifax and Bradford ones for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And then just kept, and there's a Sheffield one as well there. Again, avoided Sheffield. You've got two big football clubs there, so avoid that. And then there's two more HD. So that gets you just over 9,000 addresses. So you're getting quite a broad target area. But as I said, you could go further down this list, and it does go on and say, actually, we know that HD8, for example, has got a big population of football supporters there. Again, it's about overlaying it with your existing data you've got. So it gives you the choices to do that. The other thing you can do, again, which Mike's talked about with a QR code, obviously the idea is that we'll have a QR code on the door drop as well, but of course it's not personalised. But what we can do, we can code it based on the postcode. So let's say we use the HD1 here, we can have a bespoke QR code for that postcode, one for this postcode, one for these ones. So at least when they do scan that and it goes into the landing page, you'll know that they've come from a specific postcode. So it's versioned. You won't know who the individual is, of course, because your challenge is to actually capture their data, but at least you'll know where they've come from. The other thing you can do as well, again, using your data, again, assuming you choose these 4 postcodes, so yeah, we'll do these 4 you've recommended. You can then go back into your data and say, okay, how many supporters or how many season ticket holders are there in those postcodes? So let's say we've got just over 9,000 across those 4. You might find that within your database or within the football club's database of season ticket holders, there are, let's say, 1,000 season ticket holders in those 4. So that's 1,000 season ticket holders. You could actually then follow up with an email knowing that they've had a door drop. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can see that overlay of using your data versus the data that the club hold, and then that helps for our own database.
Exactly. So until you do that work, of course, you'll never know. But that's a piece of work that, from a data analysis viewpoint, is well worth doing to maximise the potential. The other thing that we talked about, again, talking the campaign through, making sure that that you get the most from doing DM and door drop, is to keep them a bit separate. So the DM, of course, you can choose how many you send and who you send to and where you target. What we'd recommend is that you keep the door drop separate, so you don't actually send DM to the same postcode areas where the door drop's going to get hit. Effectively, you're then going to hit them twice. Now, that's not to say that wouldn't help the response, but the reality is it might skew some of the results you get. We think it's better to keep the 2 separate, so you'll get a clear result from the door drop, a clear result from the DM, and then obviously link it all in with the campaign. And then obviously, again, with email follow-up, at least you'll be able to track where you're getting your responses. Just further down the report, and again, I will send you this because there's a lot to read. It gives you a bit more, where's it gone? It gives you a bit more detail on the A's, the B's and the C's in terms of who they are. So you can see in the A's, you've got a household income of 150k plus, sort of average age group they are, what their key features are. Even gives you things like their channel preferences, sort of property they're in. And then again, you go further down into the B's, gives you a bit more detail about them. And again, depending on the profile and the detail of the data you hold, you'll know, there'll be a good overlay. You'll have a feel for where it's best to target, going back into the postcodes. So in summary, that's kind of, just going back to the top page here. In summary, that's probably the recommendation we would make from a cold view with no knowledge of your data. That's how we would recommend you approach it. Very straightforward scenario at it. As we said before, door drop is a very, very cost-effective way of reaching quite a lot of people to help your campaign. Does that all make sense? And do you have any questions?
No, it completely makes sense, and I understand that. Obviously not trying to give everyone both the direct mail and the draw drop. So just making sure that we've got those quite separate and we can see the real return. And then I think that's really useful for us making decisions going forward, because we can understand where are we better investing and kind of what would work for us. So really useful. And I think just even understanding that demographic detail again is just really helpful for us when we're kind of planning other campaigns and other delivery.
Okay, great, brilliant. Thank you, Siobhan.
So Siobhan, just in addition to content creation, imagery, that sort of thing, the other things that we need to scope out together is obviously the data segmentation that Mike was discussing, how that will overlay with what Lance was discussing, and then at that point, that will help dictate, certainly from the door drop point of view, if we agree on those demographics, what sort of language we use, what information we want to share with them, to deliver against one of those objectives in terms of the community awareness. And then also what is quite critical that we need to agree on is timings. So how we then time the door drop versus the DM, and then follow-up emails when you actually push it out on social, that sort of thing.
Yeah, we can do that. And I think that just interesting to look at all that breakdown of the data and then decide, like you said, what imagery do we use? If it's a higher age demographic, do we use more of our sporting memories type projects? If there's a lot of families, do we use that kind of lots of imagery around the camps, the young people programs that we do? So I think it's really useful and makes us think that actually don't just try and do one that has everything in it. It's trying to use that target a bit more, I think, and use that data to kind of put the right imagery and, like you said, use the right kind of language. Yeah, really useful.
Cool.
I was going to say, I think that's exactly the power of direct mail and direct marketing, and particularly the kind of the digital print and personalisation, and even the door drop, where you can be very targeted and you can test. So that would always be my advice: is, test different types of messaging and artwork. You don't have to do a large kind of blast out the same message to everybody. You can try things, see how they respond, and there's bound to be things that work better than other things in the work that you're doing. And then once you find something that seems to be very engaging or seems to be working really well, obviously you can then scale that up, maybe with a bit more confidence that it'll give you the results that you want to justify the spend, I guess, on the marketing in the first place.
Yeah, I think if I was going to be critical of my industry, we do like a one shot fits everyone, and I don't think we really think too much about that kind of end audience and tailoring it. So I think this is quite interesting for us to challenge our way of thinking, because normally it'd be like, one leaflet, one short impact report, send it out to everyone on the database without really thinking about what does the end user want to know from this, and understanding those different segmentations.
And as we're talking to kind of in a kind of print context here, in the print conference, it's something that's changed as well in the print media. Is we're using digital printing, we're using to buy, short run. It's no longer the days, I've made some plates, therefore, you're in for a penny, you just as well have another 5,000 shoved on the end. It's not like that now. We can be very targeted and much more sophisticated, if you like, because of the technology which we're now using and the way that everything can be data driven.
Yeah, no, really helpful.
And of course, Siobhan, the beauty of, and we touched on a lot of these stats in our initial presentation, that, an email, one click, and it's gone from people's minds, memories, devices. But, with the DM and door drop approach, research does actually prove, and market reach from Royal Mail, they've done a lot of research on this, that it does stay in the house. I think Lance, correct me on this, it's at least 28 days, if not longer in some cases.
Yeah, door drop, there's some great statistics again, which we can back up. I mean, there's, as Lucy said there, Royal Mail have commissioned a lot of insight over the years around how long printed product stays in the home, and it's different for door drops, different for DM, but it does linger a lot longer than the digital messaging, so it has that cut through and comeback for people to look at it for a longer period of time.
Great. Okay, so next steps then, Siobhan, we need to get together, don't we, and find out the content, sort the data, and go from there. Get planning on the Circle campaign and get the door drop booked.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you very much, Siobhan. Have you got any further questions?
No, nothing from me. Just excited to look forward to the next stage of the process and start seeing the real results.
Great. Okay, so we're now going to move on to the next session very shortly with Neil from VPress. But first, I'd just like to say a very big thank you to everyone at Latchams, 8 days a week, VPress, and my team at Nutshell Creative for giving up their time to support this amazing charity. And also a big thank you to Siobhan for allowing us to deliver against your brief. The proof will be in the pudding, as they say. Thank you for listening.